Okay, everyone. My name is Shelby Williams Long, EDS, the twice exceptional mom, and I'm so excited to be here today. I'm with Miss Priscilla Harris Braxton and also Miss Stacy Washington, and we're going to talk a little bit about ABA therapy. Miss Braxton has two facilities in the Memphis area, Memphis, Tennessee. And Miss Washington is also in ABA. She's a therapist. So I'm going to let Miss Washington start talking a little bit about some of the therapies she provides, and then let Miss Braxton talk about how she got into this business.
Okay, so
Miss Washington, sorry.
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Miss Washington.
Okay. So some of the therapies, of course, it's ABA, applied behavior analysis, but we offer social skills therapy, as well as the functional skills therapy. And then even though music and therapy is so some of the other things we provide, like I said, is functional skills, the therapy. And I was talking about music therapy, even though that's not something that's under the umbrella of ABA, but it has been proven to be effective as ABA. So even when it comes to them engaging in stereotypy or high repetitive behaviors, we'll play a little soft music or, the little jazz music that has been proven to be effective in reducing that stereotypical behavior. So and then we also provide DTT, that's discrete trial teaching, where we're working with the kids one on one and providing all of those steps that they need to ensure that they're learning correctly, errorless learning, the pre-MAC principle, first, then, such as first we're going to work, then we can play. So those are just some of the few therapies that we offer.
So when you do your applied behavioral analysis therapy, do you go into homes typically, or do some people come to the centers, or how does that typically work? And if you were working with a child, or even you could tell me like if you're working with a child who has autism, because I know a lot of children with autism get ABA, what would a typical session look like?
So right now we have a couple that will be coming into the clinic. Most of them right now are either in school or they're at home. And so I'll speak on a session from home because right now that's what I have been supervising. So that looks like the RBT coming in to greet the
And
client and the
RBT
caregiver,
stands for,
a registered behavior therapist,
okay.
or technician, however you want to use it. But so first, they will greet the client and greet the client's caregiver. Then they should start by pairing with the child. And by pairing, I mean engaging in some of their highly preferred activities, or just sometimes there's not really things that the students with autism like. So they might like to talk about certain things, whether it's dinosaurs or cars or, just engaging in some of those topics with them to get on their level because we really, really, really enforce behavior momentum. And when I say behavior momentum, I mean getting them on their level and getting them interested enough to do what we're telling them to do and to follow our instructions.
Awesome.
And so once they do that, then they'll get started. They'll do some NET, that's naturalistic environmental training. And so that's if they pick up a car and they're looking at it. And so we'll ask them, okay, what color is the car? What can you do with the
Mhm.
car? Where do you see cars? So that's learning on their level instead of making
Okay.
them learn where we want them to learn.
Okay. And do you want to talk about some of are there any other things that you would do? Like if you did ABA in the clinic, is it different? Because I guess my understanding of ABA was sometimes you kind of work to change behaviors, right?
Mhm,
That a child may have that may make it kind of difficult for them to acclimate in certain settings. So
mhm,
am I correct and understand? Can you talk about maybe like some of those behaviors that you work to help replace, I guess, do replacement behaviors with,
mhm,
and just what I guess like how you've seen like the benefits of it? Because I know it's been at one point in time, ABA was like a little bit more controversial,
mhm. It was.
because some people
Mhm,
were feeling like, well, you're just not letting my child be him or herself, but I
mhm.
know a lot of other people are leaning into it a little bit more. So can you talk about like replacement behaviors and some of the behaviors that are targeted frequently for some of your clients, particularly ones with ASD, autism spectrum disorder?
Yes. So you have elopement, that's them running off. You have property destruction, that's them tearing up things or objects. You have mouthing, that's them putting things into their mouth. The biggest thing that we see is the repetitive behaviors, and everybody calls it a different thing. They call it stimming, repetitive behaviors, or stereotypy. But basically, that's the biggest thing that we see, and that could be hand flapping, body rocking, repetitive hand shaking, or non-functional movements. And so one of the big things at ABA is, even when I do checklists with the RBTs, I tell them, don't just say no. If you can't just say no and stop them and not replace it with anything. So replacement
Exactly.
behaviors are very important. So maybe instead of them doing the rocking, we give them something to figure out
Fidget
what can
whip.
soothe them, what something that can replace that rocking. Or like I said, the music therapy is something that I do as well. If they're constantly humming, we play that. It seems to reduce it and bring it down. I think
Mm.
that's so important because they are not going to learn a better behavior or a better way of doing it if you don't teach them. Even
Right,
with property
right,
destruction, we teach them functional play, because sometimes they don't know how to play. They don't know how to play with it. They're just used to picking it up, throwing it, slamming it. But
right.
when somebody comes in and models and shows them, okay, this is how you should play with it, then we see that positive behavior increase. And as far as the differences between home and in clinic, I think a lot of people stray away from home because you have a big gap in with caregivers following the plan and or
Mm.
either interrupting the plan. And so the mom that we see now, she's really good about that. She's really good about letting us take over the session, and we're really good about letting her be involved in the session. And she sees what we're doing. She says it works. And so that's where parent training comes into play as well. So we want it to be consistent. We want it to be generalized. So that's why when we do our reports, we say, okay, this will be implemented in the community. This will be implemented within the home or the school. And so we just want to make sure training and staff training is so important to make sure everybody's on the same plan.
What about daily living? Doesn't ABA sometimes assist with some daily living tasks?
Yes, we have functional skills such as brushing teeth. We have being able to tolerate or being desensitized to getting their nails clipped or washing
Because
their
they're
hair.
highly sensitive with
Yes,
autism.
yes, yes.
Mm.
Even putting on their clothes. So many of them that are almost 9 and 10 years old are struggling with just being able to zip up a jacket.
You
And
telling my
it's
story.
yes,
my
yes.
my 6 year old, it is, like I have to put the shirt over his head. He can put his
Mm-hmm.
arm in the sleeves, but I have to put
Mm-hmm.
the shirt over his head. I could lay the
Yes.
pants flat on the floor and say
Mm-hmm.
tags in the back,
Mm-hmm.
pull it up, and we still might end up with two legs and one hole.
Yes.
And I'm just like, we've been doing this for 6 years.
Yes.
I need you to
Yes.
work with mommy. Work with
Yes.
mommy.
Yes.
So like that's why I'm really interested in like learning more about it, because I'll be honest, my child's been on a wait list for ABA therapy here in Macon for about, I think it's been about 8 months.
Okay. Okay.
I'll help them learn how to wipe themselves, like learn how to
Yes.
like,
Yes.
wash their hands, like just
Yes.
everyday things that a lot of parents may take for granted who may have like neurotypical children, that children with
Mm-hmm.
autism that could be like really, really bright on one aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but then on the other side, like you might not know how to wipe your behind. You might not know how to
Yes.
get
Yes.
brush your teeth without getting upset.
I've worked with plenty of children like that before. And actually one of the things that I love is working on them, especially wiping the behind, because it's a cute little activity that you do. You tie a balloon together and then you put it on the back of the chair. You have them take a wipe and then you wipe
Oh,
down the
that's
middle of the
funny.
balloon.
So like
Yes.
basically balloon buttocks. Is
Yes.
that what you're describing? And then they have to
Yes.
practice with that. Okay. I'm
Yes.
gonna be stealing that. I'm gonna be stealing that. Because he
Yes.
does all right, but he could do a little better.
Yes.
He could do a little better.
Yes, so it's really great. I love it. But yes, we definitely work on the washing hands. And there's something else that's called task analysis. So a lot of times it's not that the children can't do it. I believe that when people they're not trained or they don't know how to work with them properly, then they try to throw the task on them at one time. but
Yeah,
they call it chaining and shaping and task analysis, but basically it's breaking the big picture down into small
the
steps.
small steps because
So
they typically can't remember all those steps.
yes,
They need
yes,
reminders to go.
yes,
And a lot
yes.
of people, do have like, I guess, comorbidities like having
Mhm.
ADHD as
Mhm.
well as autism at the same time. So
Mhm.
they're navigating being like overly stimulated, physically, and also their brain like trying to process a lot at the same
Yes.
time. So they can't recall those things.
Yes. Yes. And so I honestly love it because I used to teach, I taught for 5 years and I taught kindergarten. And
Oh,
so
God
although
bless
I
you. God bless you.
and so although I love doing it, it was just when I was in school for ABA, just working on those things, I felt more of a meaningful impact. And, just being able to combine those two together, being able to teach them, okay, this is your letters, this is your colors, but also this is how we brush our teeth, and
Right.
it being okay. And it really does provide just a source of meaningfulness. So I love it.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything, what do you think like parents should expect or when they're dealing with an ABA therapist, or how can they build rapport with their ABA therapist? Because it definitely is like a unique situation, because the closest
Mhm.
thing I can really think of is when you have a senior parent or like a parent that's unwell, kind of almost getting like skilled nursing, but
Mhm.
instead it's more like therapeutic and it's not as frequent. So what are some things like you would tell a parent to expect as they get to know their ABA therapist and welcoming that person into their home and into their family?
I think they should expect just difference, or and when I say difference, I mean, like, so generalization, as I said earlier, is very important. So how one staff member does something is not how the other staff member will do it.
Okay.
But that's important because that child needs to see it worked or instructed in many different ways, because when they go out into the world, nobody's going to say what's your
This is
name
how
in the
you are
same
used to
way.
this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to say where do you live? They might say, what's your address? Where do you live? Where's your mom? And so that's so important. And which is the BA will have all that listed out. But it's just so fun. And what you see with one staff member, they might be like fun and engaging and energetic, but to some kids, that's just too much. They like, no, I need more so of a calm
Yeah.
person. So I think a lot of parents struggle with that because they like one type of person and they think that
Mm.
that's how it should
That's
be.
what their kid needs, but
Yes,
it's just their
yes,
preference. Yeah.
yes. It's just their preference. It's not really what the child needs. So, also something I think they need to expect is slow progress, because sometimes, yes, they do make a ton of progress in one area, but some things it might take longer. They might be working on that for 6 months. It might be 10 months. It might be a year. So I think sometimes they get impatient and like, okay, this isn't working. What else can we do? But you have to give it time. I've seen so many testimonials about children who weren't verbal at all, or even if they weren't verbal, they weren't communicating with an AAC device or a PEX board. They weren't communicating with
At
any of
all.
that. And it might take a year or two, and then all of a sudden they've said water, or they've at least went buh, and said the sound, and it's like, oh my gosh. And they were at the almost at that breaking point where they were like, okay, this just isn't working. And it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes they just need more time in certain things. It might be maybe the motivator is weak, maybe the motivation is weak, maybe they just don't have that willingness right now, and that's okay. Sometimes it gets better with age, and that's something that we can't depict. So I definitely think that. And the last thing I'll say that they should expect is consistency, because a lot of times they'll think, well, if we do this time, or if we do this for 2 months, they should be good. But no, you have to keep on doing it. You have to be consistent with it. And that's what ABA is. We're not going to be like, okay, well, it's Friday, you don't have to do that. Or
Right.
it's going to be a holiday next week, so no, you're fine. I think they should be able to expect and be able to implement that. It's no matter when. It doesn't matter if we're at the grocery store or the gas station. If they engage in this behavior and the protocol says you need to give them brief corrective feedback or give them a pre-med principle saying first thing, then you need to do that. Or if you had a
Right.
birthday party, because they need that. They need to know, okay, this isn't just when I'm at the clinic or when I'm at
It's
home. This
everywhere.
is everywhere. So those are my top three things that I think they should expect.
What is something that you would want a parent to know if they were on the fence about ABA therapy and they were worried about, like, changing the core of who their child is by getting those replacement therapies? What would you say to make somebody feel more comfortable or have a better understanding of what you're doing?
I think so. ABA is based on evidence. It's based on scientific evidence of things that have worked in the past. So I think testimonials and like giving them examples and having them actually see it, I think is a breakthrough for them. I think I've actually have talked to so many parents that's a little iffy, or they're like, I don't want them to sound like a robot. I don't want them to think I'm mean. I don't want them to hate it. But I think letting them know that it's for one, that it's okay for their child to be different,
Right.
and just letting them know, like, okay, we've done this before. We are like letting them meet the staff and seeing, like, okay, this is this person, giving them a little bit of personality, telling them a little bit about them, making it personal. For me, have seemed to really help with the parents. And like giving them your own personal story, like the people in your family. I feel like you can help the people in your family, then you can help their child. I definitely feel
Right.
like that. And I also think letting them know about parent training. So parent training is something we do once a month. And I think so many parents, they're so worried and they're like, I'm not going to know what they're working on. But most of the time when I tell them, okay, you have to attend a parent training once a month or we have to talk, then they're like, oh, you're going to keep up with me. You're going to share all these
A
things with me.
little
And
bit
I
more
feel like,
accountability.
yes, I feel like they kind of like, okay, this is cool. As I've had so many parents say, oh, at the last ABA place, they didn't do that. They didn't even
Right.
mention it. And so I feel like that calms a lot of them. And the last thing, I think it's just showing up for them, being there for them. Like sometimes when I have parent train, I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you about the skills they're working on, but I'm also going to see how you're doing. How is
Hmm.
there, like, this is just your time to talk, because so many times they're misjudged by the people in their family or just
Yes.
people in the world or in the community, and they don't have anybody to talk to. So sometimes I'm just like, just being there for them and just letting them talk, letting them know, okay, I'm an ear. Everything you say is going to stay here, and we're going to try to work through this. I feel like that seems to help.
I think that all sounds wonderful, and I'm very appreciative of the work that you're doing. I have one more question because I know you have to run. Before I start talking to Priscilla a little bit more, um, if I were to have an ABA therapist come in my home, how would I prep for that? Like if I finally get off the wait list down here, how would I prep for this person to come to my house?
Um, I think maybe having your own written out like plan, like, or I'll say boundaries. Like what do you want that therapist to do? Do you want them to like already have a place in mind where you want them to work, where you want them to be stationed at, having materials that they need, maybe asking them, okay, what are some things that you might need? And if they say nothing, that's a red flag because we're always
Right,
going to need materials.
right.
Now, other than what the clinic provides, but we're always going to need materials in the home, like you said, working on functional skills. We're going to need clothes, we're going to need pens.
Toilet
So I
paper.
think, yes, paper, pencil, marker, scissors, all of those things. So I think getting that written out, like, okay, I need this kind of materials, this is where I want them to work. I think that will be good. And making a safe space for the child and for the therapist, I think is really good, because so many times, yes, the client has a safe space, but then the therapist, they don't feel like
Doesn't.
that they're wanted there, or
Hmm.
so if there's other people in the home, maybe tell them, okay, there's going to be so and so here, make sure you guys speak to them. Make sure you guys maybe pop in on the session here and there. So that's pretty much what I think that you
And
should do to
about how
prepare.
many times a week do you typically meet, like with your clients? Like, is it once a week, twice a week,
Um,
or does it just generally vary based off of like coverage and needs?
So that depends on the child. That depends on the child and the we do a direct assessment with the oh I'm sorry, we do an indirect assessment, which is a caregiver interview. So they should talk to you first and they should say, hey, what are some things that the child does when they're upset? What are some things that the child does when they're happy? And so based off all that, and then when we go meet with the child in direct person, then we do an assessment and we see, okay, well, they can do this, they can't do that, they can transition well. And then we take all of that and then we say, okay, well, they'll need maybe 8 hours a week. Or if they're not listening, they're not responding, they're not making
Right.
eye contact, then you're like, okay, you're gonna need about 20 to 30 or plus hours a week. And so that
Wow.
just depends on like their school schedule. If they're in school, if the school will let us in, all that
So
plays a
you
big part
sometimes
of it.
go to the school and help them with skills in the school also?
Yes, yes. If the school
Okay.
will let us in, we go there.
Cool. Well,
Yes.
you've answered a lot of my questions. I know you have the other clients and things to see. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about my cousin's business and hearing about
Okay.
how you guys are changing lives in Memphis 10.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I
Okay.
appreciate you.
No
Thank
problem. It
you,
was nice
Stacy.
meeting you.
Nice seeing you too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it rolling. So I've already
Okay,
said this is my cousin. Um, I've got to read the bio. So,
sure.
Priscilla Harris Braxton is an educational leader and an entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in education and organizational leadership. She holds degrees at the associate, I don't know why I can't say that word today, associate, bachelor's, and master's levels in education, and is an ABD doctoral candidate in educational leadership at Rockhurst University. Ms. Braxton is the founder and chief executive officer of ABA Connect LLC, an organization delivering behavioral and educational services across Memphis, Tennessee, and Olive Branch, Mississippi. Her leadership experience includes organizational development, compliance and quality assurance, staff supervision, and strategic planning. She is dedicated to building high quality, ethical, and scalable service models that support students, families, and educational institutions. So, y'all heard my cousin's credentials. Yeah. But I'm just excited to hear about it because I know like at home, our Aunt Carrie, she told me, and I know you had like your grand opening and everything like that. And I don't even know 100% if I even knew you were in education like me. And then to hear like that you were going into ABA therapy as a business, it was just, for me as an autism mom, it was just exciting. My only issue with it is that you're not here because maybe if you were here, I can get off somebody's wait list. That's my biggest thing. But I'm very, very excited to hear about your business and about, what made you decide that this was a need that needed to be filled. And all those types of things. So I'll get into some of the questions I have. I think we've already answered like a few of them with Stacy, but the first question is because we've gone over ABA therapy and some of the benefits, but do individuals with diagnoses other than autism benefit from ABA?
They do. And like you said previously, a lot of your people with autism, they hold multiple diagnoses. A lot of them tend to be ADHD, developmental delay, ADD, different, some come with some psychotic diagnosis as well. So it varies, but they cross each other in what they need to be successful. So just one diagnosis that we really see a lot is ADHD. And with ADHD, there's attention deficit hyper disorder, and so it causes the person to be um overexcited or hyper. And so with those different strategies or implementations that Stacy spoke about, then those can cross over to assisting them with handling their ADHD. Now, a lot of times they are medicated for ADHD, and so that helps as well with coping, coping skills or coping mechanisms to help them with those different disorders. But yes, it's a cross
Do you
therapy.
do you serve adults or just children?
Currently we serve ages 3 to 10. But actually, we're in the process of opening adult day home, and that will be hopefully we'll be opening that up in the summertime, where we will be able to cater to those adults that basically they're being cared for at home, and those caregivers at any point in time may want to work or are not able to work because they're a caregiver, or they may need just a day off, from because being a caregiver is strenuous, it's a lot. I know because I'm a caregiver myself, and so for my father, so I know how that can be. And so um when I get a lot of calls asking me, hey, do you provide services for adults? And so husband and I put our heads together, and that's what we came up with. And so in that adult day home, we'll provide again adult services, we'll provide transportation if they need to serve ages 3 to 10. Well, like I said, in the summertime, we hope to launch our adult day home. And so what that would consist of is we will service um adults, and we will provide a day home services, like I said. With that, it's basically for adults that are at home and being cared for. However, the caregiver may be unable to work due to providing
Mhm.
caregiver services, or um, may just need a day off because caregiving itself is pretty tasking. And
Yes.
so we will provide those services along with them being at the day home. During that period of time, we will offer ABA services again for adults. We will provide speech services, OT, PT, and community services, also along with transportation. Like, say, for instance, the a client needs to go to a doctor's appointment or pick up medication, and then we'll also have a chance to take them out into community. They may go see a movie or go to a festival or different things like that.
So
Because we
like
have
all
gotten a
basically giving us supports like all around so they can get to do a lot of
yes.
things that most people are able to enjoy easily and maybe even take for granted.
Yes, definitely taken for granted. And those type of things don't come easy onto our adults with autism.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten a lot of calls and saying, hey, do you, offer services for adults? And I didn't like saying no. And
Right.
so, yeah, and so that's how I decided to say, hey, we're gonna implement it this way. And
And I do
hopefully
want
that
to
will
point
be
out too that just for people who are listening, that there are different. I know now they used to call it like a. Usually people say a spectrum, an autism spectrum, and now people are talking about like different levels of autism, like levels of functionality. So there are varying levels. There are some people that you wouldn't even know
mhm,
they have autism, and then there are
exactly.
other people like they need a lot of assistance and everything. So it
Mhm.
just literally varies from person to person.
Exactly. And that's why it's considered a spectrum, because it's a wide spectrum. And like you said, varied levels. But your basic levels are 3 levels, level 1 and level 2, level 3. So and you know, it just depends on the person where they fall. And like you said, it's some people that are on a spectrum you'll never know
Could you
unless
do?
they tell you.
Could you
Mhm.
explain the levels for people?
So like level one, it used to be years ago, they used to call it Asperger's. So level one is your
More
uh,
socially
yeah,
awkward.
well, they all struggle with social skills. That's just a thing with autism. But they with your level one, they have to be either above they have a normal IQ to above IQ.
Hmm.
A lot of them have higher IQs, and when I mean high, I mean
Very
extremely high,
high, very high.
extremely high. Yes. And um, so they tend to have what we call little quirks. So they may, when you're talking to them, they may carry on about a particular thing that they like to talk about. Airplanes. They may be, just into airplanes, and you could be talking about dinner in some kind of way. They'll
Get
start talking
airplanes
back.
into that conversation.
Yeah, into that conversation. And so you will see it that way. You will see eye contact. They're normally, veered off. They won't, make direct eye contact with you. Um, it's settled characteristics
For
of
the,
level
and
one.
you said for level one, but then like as
Yeah.
we increase levels, level two, level three.
Yeah, level two, they go when you're looking at children child wise, they tend to be struggling with being potty trained. They may be potty trained, but not fully potty trained. So they may be, 3, 4 years old, maybe still in a pull-up, that type of
Right.
thing. Then they haven't graduated to underwear, but they're still academically successful. They just have their social skills is limited, meaning interacting with people. They may talk to you for a little bit and then they're gone, or still maybe nonverbal, you know. And so then when you move into your level three, then you have your children or adults where you can kind of tell. So they're academically declined. They're struggling with your typical academics. They're you know, may not be trying to the restroom or potty trained, different things like that. They start. But the thing is, just because your child is diagnosed at level 3, 2, 1, or well, 3 and 2 doesn't mean they will stay there. So that's
Hmm.
another thing. I have seen many children that come in, they're
Level three and they get to become a level two,
two,
or level two
yes.
become a level one.
Yes, level two and level one. So it's not the last call when the doctor diagnosed them at a certain level.
I love that you
Yeah.
said that. And I think that's just so
Hmm.
important for people to remember. Like, that may be where we are, but that's not necessarily where we're going to stay, and that there
No,
is opportunity for progress and
definitely.
independence and,
Hmm.
improvement in the
Hmm.
ability to take care of oneself and
Hmm.
express oneself. And I think that's oftentimes left out of the conversation when we talk about autism spectrum disorder, particularly, that there is, that's the whole purpose of early interventions, particularly, is to get them those things. And I,
Definitely.
that's part of my platform, is like, I want people to understand various therapies, different things that they can do so that they can make sure their children have an opportunity to move from surviving to thriving.
Hmm.
Because I was one of those parents. I always get like a little upset, like when I talk about it, but my son was talking and he stopped. And we had to put all these things in place to get him back to where, he was talking, and he's talking, he communicates, he makes straight A's, he's one of the top readers in this grade level, all these types of things, but it has not been without its challenges. But I think it's important for parents to understand, like exactly like you said, that just because you may have be at a certain point when the diagnosis or the exploration of a diagnosis is occurring, doesn't mean like that's the end of everything and this is just where their child has to stay.
Exactly. And with that being said, our our services are data driven, so meaning we're constantly monitoring. We're constantly monitoring their progress. Everything is individualized. If we have one child, that child may not be getting the same services as another child because
Right.
everything is individualized and specialized for that particular child. So everything is different, data driven.
I almost wish I had called our other cousin Portia on here because, she has her twin boys with autism. They get ABA therapy, and they have, I think, different levels of capabilities that they've shown as individuals too. So, like, what one child might need, the other one might not, and vice versa. And
Mhm.
that's in one house.
And even with being twins, exactly, because
Yeah.
they're still two different entities. Yeah, two different people. Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I have another question. I've already like been on my little soapbox of having been on the wait list for months and months and months. So since my child's been on wait list for almost a year, like eight plus months for sure, why do you think the demand for ABA therapy is increasing?
I think it's increasing because of the increase of a diagnosis. You know, Autism itself is not new. It is not new.
Say it
As
louder for the people. Say it louder for the people in
Yeah,
the back.
autism is definitely nothing new. If we look back, and um, scientists and experts and your top behavior analysis, they have looked back and analyzed, just say, the characteristics of Einstein.
They say
We didn't
he had
that
autism.
terminology, um, as far as autism, of course, wasn't present back then. But he was, as they look at his characteristics and the things he did and the way he behaved,
And he
they're
was so late to start.
classifying.
He was late to start speaking. I think he was
Yes,
like
he didn't. I
six or
believe
eight
he didn't
years,
speak until
six
he
or
was.
older when he started
Yeah, I
speaking
think he was.
finally.
Yeah, I think he was 5. I think he was
You
5.
know,
Yeah, before he even spoke a word. But he's labeled in our time as one of the, most
greatest
intelligent
scientific
people that
minds.
lived. Yes,
Right.
and but everything is pointing towards he was autistic. He was definitely autistic. And so, and you know how long ago that was. So that's just to say that autism is definitely not new. We're just now actually putting a name to it. More people are being diagnosed. The characteristics of autism is being put out publicly in social media. More people like you are coming forward with their stories. And so with that, more parents are recognizing characteristics and saying, hey, I think, this may be what's wrong, because I've been in so many IEP meetings where parents, they're in denial. And so they
Because,
think,
and a lot of times it's because somebody in their family acted like that and did not
it's
have the diagnosis and they treated it like
exactly,
it was
exactly.
normal. But,
The,
I'm an educator too. And like I always tell my teammates, I'm like, it's apples and trees, baby. It's apples and
yes.
trees. So,
And we were here so many times. My uncle didn't talk to, he was 7, and my
and
grandmama said
so it was
there was
there,
not.
that was that family's normal. So it doesn't stand out to
Exactly.
them as like something that necessarily needed to be addressed or
Dress,
could even be
yes,
addressed with therapists.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so because we have more awareness now, then we have more children that are being diagnosed. And so with that diagnosis comes, hey, it's, ABA therapy. I need to get my child some assistance as early as possible. And so that's where you get in the extended wait list. Hmm.
So here's my question for my little needy self. What are some things that I could do or other parents can do in the interim while they're waiting to get off of somebody's wait list?
And so what you can do is be present at IEP meetings. Be very present. Educate yourself on those accommodations and modifications that they have. Ask questions. What can I do at home to further his progression? Um, and and basically, that's it. Be present and present and active. in his education process, which I'm sure you
Honey,
you
I had
you've
an
been.
IEP
Yeah.
meeting. What's today? Saturday. I had an IEP meeting on Thursday. We just got some new accommodations this week because now we've added visual impairment to Mr. Man's IEP. So
So, but that's the thing. There'll be a lot of parents, their children have IEPs. They don't
they don't
they
come
don't
to
know
the
what that
meetings.
means. They don't they We got to pull them in for meetings.
Yes,
They're
Lord.
and then when they're in meetings, they don't know
But
anything about them. They're not educated on, what's accommodation, what's a modification,
but
or
that's part of the, I feel like, and I don't want to go too far off base from what we're talking about with ABA, but part of why I'm doing what I'm doing is because of my experience. Like I try to be mindful about the words I choose because I work for my same school district where my child is served. But it has not always been the easiest process to get him the things that I know for a fact that he needs. And even when you talk about like rules and regulations about like when the first thing that happens, if for those of you who've never been in an IEP meeting, like everybody introduces themselves and they give you a copy of your parental rights. There is so much legal jargon in there. It is
Mhm.
I have 3 degrees. My ex-husband, who attends the meetings with me, he has 2 degrees. We are highly educated individuals. We read, we consider ourselves to be quite intelligent. And I can read it, I can get it, but it's not something that is in layman's terms that's simplistic for every parent to understand. It should be very clear and very plain what is what your when it says what are your rights or what you as a parent can say no to, what you as a parent can request. And it's a lot of things that you have to phrase a certain way or you have to express your concern a certain way in order to make things move. And I just feel like everybody's paying taxes. The kids need to get what they need so that they can thrive and they can succeed. It should not have to be, it shouldn't be this hard.
And one thing that parents can always reach out to get is an advocate.
Oh, yes.
Yes. An
Or an
advocate. And
attorney.
yes, yes, or an attorney. But if you don't have the money for the attorney, then an advocate is speaks volumes. Put it
Yes.
that way. So
Yes.
when I was in the I was a special education teacher, and so we have been we will be informed ahead of time. Hey, this parent has an advocate, so everybody know. Hey, it's time to
Be
get
on
on
your
your
P's and
P's and Q's.
Q's. Right.
Yes,
But
yes,
you
and
know
so
what? The thing
yeah.
of it is, and I don't know if it's different in Tennessee. I don't, I know actually, I take it back. I know it's not different in Tennessee because one year I made it like a resolution that I was going to get certified in Mississippi and Tennessee too, with my education. I didn't have to do anything different. I just gave them my credentials. Um, a lot of parents aren't aware that there's no requirement for a teacher to be special education certified. So, like, people have to choose pretty much to be a special education teacher. However, everybody is responsible when they have a child that has like an IEP or individualized education plan for their special needs or a 504 plan. Everybody who's educating a child is responsible for following that plan and implementing that plan. And I just think it's wild that I've never been asked to take a law class as a teacher, but we're responsible for doing all these things. Like I can't even imagine like what these sped teachers go through when they're trying to like put everything in a certain way and go IEP and go over all these different types of things. I just feel like that is a missing component. And I think that the kids would have more of what they need. The parents would be less frustrated and the teachers would have a better understanding of their obligations if like a basic legal course were included or required like in even if it was like delivered by school districts as part of like their yearly professional development because it is a lot of components and a lot of pieces to it.
Well, I go as far as to say special education training period, because general education teachers, to be honest with you, um don't get what they should to apply accommodations and modifications for students with special needs.
Right.
And as a special, I was both gen ed teacher. I was taught a fifth grade ELA as well as and I was an interventionist and lead over my team, which would be functional skills and interventionist. And so I saw firsthand how general education teachers would come into IEP meetings and not know
What
what
to do.
the students' goals are, or what how to implement the accommodations. If a particular child needed extra assistance as far as extended time, different things
What that
like that.
looks like,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
how to
exactly.
make it part of the
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
implementing that differentiation instruction within the classroom. Most of your general education teachers are totally lost when it comes to that.
Because I
And
don't, it's just never been pushed. I have, like I said,
yes,
I've got, so my undergrad degree is in business and but I have a degree, a master's in early childhood education and a specialist in early childhood education. And I really don't feel like I ever took there was never like a special education
I
course.
know you
Like,
didn't. No, and actually,
and the key of it is though, you and I are having this conversation. We're living in two different states.
hmm,
Like we're
it's
like three
across the
states
board.
away from each other.
Actually,
Well, depending
that's
on
my
which direction you go.
dissertation topic. That's my dissertation topic.
And you gonna
Is
kill it,
the lack
doctor.
of professional development among general education teachers in an inclusive classroom. That's my topic. And my classmates, they're all over the country. And so, when they read, we do like peer assignments, and when they read it, they're like, oh yeah, you're right on this. This is so true. So it's not just in Georgia, it's not just in Tennessee, it's
It's
not
not.
just in Mississippi, it's a cross the country thing problem. It's a
It's a
problem.
systemic
Yeah.
failing. It really,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's a systemic failing because at the same time, I I mean, I could really go on about this, like, because I feel very strongly about it because I don't understand why special education teachers don't get paid more than regular ed teachers. I'm a regular ed teacher with no interest at all in becoming a special education teacher. I'm gonna put that out there. Like, I may be a sped mom, but I'm not interested in being a sped teacher like that. I'm not. Um, and I don't, I don't think that I should get paid the same amount of money as a person who's got to follow all these compliances and put all these things in the IEP together and make sure
Mm-hmm.
that because if you're the case manager, then you have to make sure that the other people under you are providing the services. So you're having to make sure, is the OT person giving them their 30 minutes a week, or is the speech teacher coming in and doing that? Are they setting their goals? Are they monitoring their goals? Am I doing my goals? Am I making sure that the classroom teacher has their stuff? And all that is for one child. And then they have multiple caseloads. And I just feel that, yes, education as a whole, we all need to get paid better. But I particularly feel like special education teachers and teachers in these high stakes testing grades where you're asked to go above and beyond like all the time, because I have taught third grade before, I have taught fourth, I have taught fifth, third and fifth. If you don't pass, you don't get promoted to the next grade level.
Exactly.
There's more pressure, there's more stress with that. And that should not be like downplayed. That the
Mm-hmm.
expectations and the stakes are so much higher.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know. I taught ELA, fifth grade ELA.
So
It's a
you already
very
know
pressured, yes, it's a
it's
very pressured
stressful.
position. Very stressful.
And you're looking at
Very.
data points and you're looking like, and people don't realize like you could have a fifth grade classroom and have a child reading on a kindergarten level, and they're
Yes.
still supposed to be able to do the same thing as everybody else.
Yes,
And it's just
exactly.
like, I'm supposed to make what
Exactly.
happen? you know
Yes.
but again, it's all tied together though, because probably that fifth grader that's reading on a kindergarten or first grade level, they probably need to be in sped. They probably
Yeah, they're
need
undiagnosed.
they're undiagnosed, they probably
Yes.
need an
Mhm.
IEP. And there's so
Yes.
much so many hoops to jump through, like in the RTI process, in the IEP process, to get them what they need so they
And
can
a
be.
lot of and a lot of times, Shelby, if that same child that you're talking about, if that child is reading on a kindergarten level, but they're not having the behavior problems, then they get lost
Yes.
because
Oh,
they're not,
100%.
yes,
They're
they're not
not bringing
acting out.
attention to themselves. They're
Yes,
not bringing attention
yes,
to themselves. And then
exactly.
they
And
get
so,
passed
yeah.
on. But,
Mm-hmm.
like I literally did an interview before this, and I was talking to Farron Slayton Barkley about her upcoming school choice fair. And she was saying that she was having like dyslexia tutors there who are Orton Gilliam certified. And I've gone through the Orton Gilliam course training and everything too. And people don't realize like they've already nailed it out. 20 to 30% of the population is dyslexic. Okay. So you're telling me as a teacher with 10, if I had 10 kids in my room, literally probably two or three of them probably have
And it's
dyslexia.
it's so many, Shelby, that are dyslexic
And they
that
in jail too.
the state doesn't recognize it as a disability because
So
everybody will get a check.
and see, and see that girl. I mean, I just feel like, woo, we could go because we had a state law passed in Georgia like not too long ago where they have to do like universal screeners to get the kids screened for dyslexia, and then it still is not like an official diagnosis. It will say highly likely that or high risk for dyslexia, and it's
Mhm.
like. But if you know this, I don't understand why everybody's not being trained in Orton Gilliam or like a similar dyslexia program. And that's not how we teach everybody how to read. Because when I went to OG, it was literally the whole main thing about it is that it's a systematic way of learning the parts of language so you can remember it and you can apply it. Because 70+% of the people in jail, they're in jail because they can't read. And you know what
Yes.
I mean? And they are breaking the law because they still got to figure
Mhm.
out how to feed themselves. They
Mhm.
still, and you can unfortunately feed yourself selling drugs. You can feed
Yeah.
yourself if you steal things and you go sell them to someone else. Like, it's all related. Education is so important and it's such a gateway to, success and like having a good future. And if we don't put things in place for them to have like the supports they need as kids and you just like shuffle them along, like that is that's what's going to keep happening. And we could just have so much more in a society if we really, really, truly paid teachers what we're worth, so the kids could get the education that they deserve. Because some of the best teachers I know, they sat down as soon as they could, or they've left the profession because of the pay, the low pay and the high stress.
Mhm.
It,
Exactly.
we've just got to value it more.
Mhm.
But I'm excited, and I want to say back to your dissertation topic. I'm excited about it. I hope you're gonna blow them. I know you're gonna blow them out the water. But I mean, it's true, and it's just like people ignore and ignore and ignore. And until people do research like you and they bring it to the forefront and make sure that people are paying attention to it, nothing really changes. You got to have the data, you got to have, the proof to get those changes happening. And I'm grateful for you, honestly. Like I want there to be more, because to say like just because they want to do everything inclusion, but
Mhm.
inclusion is not for every child. Some children
Mhm.
need an access class. Some children need a different type of classroom setting. And even if you
Mhm.
do put a child in inclusion, the teacher needs to be set up with the tools and the background
Exactly.
knowledge. And really, I feel like every teacher like needs a para, especially like first grade teachers. I know kindergarten usually have them, but first grade really need them because they're just like kindergarten 2.0, so they can get them to a place where they're learning and they're doing well, and their teachers need to feel comfortable and confident and able to provide those supports.
Exactly.
But
Mhm.
so all this about education, that actually is one of the questions on my list, which was my question for you was, what made you pivot from education to ABA therapy?
Um, so as I said before, I was, special education teacher, at a elementary school. And I was lead over my team. And one complaint that I always heard, Same complaint that you have. The child is waiting so long for ABA therapy, and so it just, I want to know why. Why was it, such a wait? But I saw firsthand how ABA therapy transformed, students' behavior in those particular classrooms. And we had some children 6 months, 8 months, 2 years. We had one child 2 years. And
Mm.
so I began to research, dig into why, what was going on, and my research came up. It was just a shortage of ABA clinics. Um, and so
So
I
you're going to
wanted
expand to
to,
Macon, Georgia? Is that what what? I
but
just I just need to know because maybe I could get off the wait list if you come on.
my goal is to expand. Don't know about Georgia, but I'm looking, because I started in Memphis, and then so, but I live in Mississippi, and so I did my research. There was no ABA clinics in Olive Branch, none at all. In South Haven, well, in the DeSoto area, really, really a little past DeSoto County area, they're basically, I think, in the whole area is probably like about
And I
six
want to
ABA clinics.
explain to the people, my good folks down here in Middle Georgia, what that means. So when we talk about Olive Branch and South Haven, it is like a hop, skip, and a jump. So even though it's
Yes,
Mississippi, like you can literally, like from my mama's house, you can be 3 lights away and go from Memphis to Mississippi. We're like
yes, yes.
nestled very
It's
close
sitting
to
on the line.
Arkansas and very close to
Uh-huh.
Mississippi. So it's not like
Yes.
much of anything to go over from
No,
Memphis.
no, not far at all. We're neighbors. And
Yes.
so, yeah, and so like I said, started in Memphis, Tennessee. We got set up pretty quickly. Began to see clients, and then I saw that, like I said, was no clinics in Olive Branch. So we are the first ABA clinic in Olive Branch, the first brick and mortar in Olive Branch. Um, and we're setting up
And say the
there,
name of your clinic again
ABA Connect LLC.
and the address.
Is 11109 Highway 178, Olive Branch, Mississippi. That's our Mississippi location. And then our Memphis location is 1661 International Drive, Suite 400, Memphis, Tennessee 38120.
All
And
right.
so we have those locations now. We do both community and clinic. So community means we go into the schools if they allow us to come in. That's another barrier we have as ABA clinics, that our city schools won't let us in.
Mm. And
Yeah, we
it's interesting that they're allowed to give you the choice when that's really like what's best for the child. And if the parents are making sure that's happening, it's very interesting to me that they are not letting you into the building because that could probably help them and how they're dealing with that child and certain behaviors with their child in the school setting as well.
definitely. So that shrinks our time that we can work with the particular child. So, of course, they have to go to school. And so when they get out of school, a lot of them, their parents have to go pick up other siblings, and might not get home till like 4:30.
Right.
And so we have the child has to, get them some sleep to go to school in the next morning. So
Right.
we
You
have
can only
just a
stay
short
so
window
long.
period. Yes, we have a short window period to work with the client. And so that's one of the barriers that we have as an ABA clinic. But yeah, to get to the original question. So we I'm sorry, repeat your original question. I got into something else and got to
Oh, I
talking.
just had asked you like what made you pivot from
Oh yeah.
education
So
to
so
ABA
yeah, so
therapy.
yeah, so that basically was it. My like I said, I was a lead teacher. A lot of the teachers under me, they did a lot of complaining about ABA therapy, the weight of ABA therapy, not complaining about ABA therapy, but the weight, because they saw the successfulness of it. And so that's one of my goals that I want to do. I want to, and we do have other businesses, but I wanted a business to where I can just solely come off of and just put all into. And so I wanted one that I really believed in, and that I felt like that would be helpful to people. And so that's what I did. And so I talked to my husband about it, and we got our brains put together, and we got the work done. And so here we are, um, implementing it. It's doing well. Right now, we have good therapists working for us. Stacy is one of our therapists uh, that works
How
for
do
us.
people get certified to become ABA therapists? Is it like a 2-year program? Is it a 4-year program?
It's
Like,
to be a board certified behavior therapist. You have to have a master's.
oh wow.
Yeah, you have.
So it's that's another reason why it's probably a wait list because people have to go to school for a long time.
Yeah, and so the BCBAs, it's not a whole lot of
Mm,
it's, you got to do some classic reaching out employment wise to bring in your BCBAs as well as pay because they have extensive backgrounds. Like I said, they have to be master level, and then they also have to pass a test that's
wow.
basically on the level of taking a test to be a lawyer. So
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty,
So it's like the
it's pretty.
bar exam almost for
Yeah,
them. Wow.
exactly. It's likened to that level, the bar exam. And so yeah, but once you get them, you I was blessed enough to get, good therapists and good RBTs, registered behavior technicians, and they are great. They're working with the kids great. They're pairing with them well. Parents are pleased. And so we just want to move forward with that and keep it
So
going.
there's not there is there like a like is it like babe like okay, so I'm thinking about like nursing, right? So
Mhm.
I know like you could have like was it the LPN and then you can be like, an RN and then it's like a BSRN and those different
Well,
levels. Are there no smaller levels or steps to get into ABA like
a lot of them start as RBTs.
okay.
So yeah, and
And the
so though
RBT is the
RBT is the person that will work directly
But
with the client.
is it registered behavioral therapist? Is that what the acronym is?
Registered behavior technician is what
Behavior
it is.
technician.
Registered
Okay.
behavior
Hmm.
technician. And so, a lot of them, most of them start off as RBTs. They do that uh, direct therapeutic as far as carrying out the goals. But the BCBA are the ones that write those goals and
Hmm.
supervise the RBTs. And so you can start out as an RBT. That's a 40-hour certificate. And you have to pass a test as well.
Do they have to have like an undergraduate degree in anything to go for the RBT or just do they
No.
can start there? Okay, so then
Yeah.
what's the next step after being an RBT then after those 40 hours?
Yeah. So after RBT, you have a lot of people that, you can go on to be like a what they call a BT, behavior technician. Um, and that's like or behavior technician. Then you have the one that you have where you're a bachelor's. But see, the only thing
Mm.
about that is as far as billing purposes.
Mm.
When you're working for a clinic, you can only bill for certain people. And
Mm.
so, yeah, and so a lot of clinics don't want unbillable hours,
Right.
because you can't
Hey,
get
you can't
paid
get
for that.
paid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, it's either the billables are the RBTs and the BCBAs. So
Okay.
in other words, the insurance companies won't
So
certify.
even if you get in that in between phase, you'll probably get paid like the lower level until you can
Yeah,
keep going up and get to the
y-
master's level, basically.
yes, exactly.
Got
You'll
you.
get paid like a RBT, maybe a little bit more because you have a little bit more education. You probably can do assessments or something like that.
It kind of like
Or
kind of puts me in the mind of like when I think about education because we have specialist degrees. Like I've got a specialist degree, but I don't have a
hmm
doctorate. But like
hmm
it's a category for us as
hmm
educators is higher than a master's, but it's
yes,
not a doctorate.
exactly.
So it's
Hmm
like, yes, I have more education than a teacher with a master's degree, but I'm still not gonna get the pay and get the same type of recognition as a teacher with a doctoral degree.
hmm
Got it.
Yes.
Um, so then So how is it with insurances? Like when people are trying to put claims in to get like ABA therapy to get it paid for, because I know a lot of times you have to fill out a lot of documentation stuff just to get OT, get speech and stuff approved. Is it more difficult to get ABA therapies approved, or is it about the same like with that, or what's been your experience so far?
It's not difficult to get it approved long as you have the correct documentation. First of all, they have to have a proper diagnosis. Then once they have that diagnosis, then they have to have proper documentation from the referring physician.
Okay.
Okay. And so those, tend to be the barriers where they are, deny it. But but that's up to the ABA clinic. The ABA clinic knows what the insurance carriers, the insurance are looking for as far as prior authorization. And so they should know, hey, you asked the parent for XYZ, and then you should know that they need this in order to get that approved. But it's not, difficult, just as long as you have the correct documentation.
Awesome. So, lastly,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm going to ask you, is there anything else you want to tell anybody about ABA therapy that we haven't covered?
That you haven't covered. Not really. I just think if you're on, kind of thinking about maybe because sometimes you can Google ABA therapy and it brings up all these different,
Opinion pieces.
techniques that they used a
Okay.
long time ago and different things like that. Um, I wouldn't look at that. You can come in, if you're still on the fence about it, come in, like Stacy said, meet with, your potential therapist, meet, with the representative of that company. Ask them, what type of strategies do they use? What type of ABA therapy techniques do they use? And how are they used? And different things like that. Because I think it's important to get a very, very good understanding of how ABA therapy is implemented. And then once you have that, then you can make up your decision from there. But I think that's about it. We pretty much covered a lot about
We
ABA therapy.
did. And I'm like, oh, we could go. I feel like we could.
Yeah.
But my last this is for real, my last one. Lastly, if someone wanted to get in contact with you for ABA therapy, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Okay, you can reach me by phone. You can reach me at 662-924-2686. You can go to our website. It's at abaconnectllc.com. And there we have a contact form you can fill out. And that will be um I will receive it that way. Or you can call another number, 662-420-7735. And any one of those numbers, I will get the message. Our receptionist there, Miss Norma, will be glad to take their information, and we'll get them taken care of.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Priscilla
Mhm.
Harris Braxton, owner
Yes, ma'am.
of, say it again for the people in the back.
ABA Connect LLC.
ABA Connect LLC in Memphis and in Olive Branch, Mississippi. I thank you
Hmm.
so much for your time. It's been informative, and I think we're going to have to do this again because I feel like we have a couple more topics we could discuss as like
Yes,
educators. Yeah,
yes,
and
definitely.
about what these people need.
Definitely. I am super excited about this interview. Thank you so much in inviting myself and Stacy. We're glad to bring some, unanswered questions to your audience, and we'll be glad to do it again.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Uh-huh. Thank you.